Hi, I'm Caroline Mitchell, canine behaviourist at Good Doggy. Today I just want to do a really quick video just to explain the difference between reactive behaviour and responsive behaviour. So easy to get these two mixed up, especially if you've had a reactive dog who has come through their training. Almost any kind of behaviour in regards to their trigger could be considered to be reactive. But knowing whether your dog is being reactive or responsive is really important because it really helps you understand what's going on, and also there are different approaches depending on which one is which. So reactive behaviour happens without any thought. This will happen when your dog sees his trigger, maybe in the distance, and immediately goes straight into his reactive behaviour. Could be lunging or barking or growling or anything like that. Whatever it is he's doing, he hasn't considered though whether that dog is of any threat to him, whether the dog's even looking at him, whether the dog is coming towards him or anything like that. So just the very existence of your dog's trigger has triggered a reaction from them. So responsive behaviour is really different. Responsive behaviour happens when your dog changes their behaviour after analysis of the situation. So if your dog is in the park enjoying a nice little sniff by themselves and another dog comes over to them and they ask the dog to go away and the dog doesn't, and then you see that same behaviour, the lunging and the barking and all that kind of stuff and the growling, same behaviour, but this is responsive behaviour because your dog has analysed the situation. He has tried to ask the dog to leave. That's responsive. Dog didn't do it. He's escalated his behaviour because that didn't work. So there's a thought process going on here. So really the difference is whether your dog is using his thinking brain or his reactive brain. So if you go onto my website, I'll pop a link into the comments, then you'll be able to find a quiz there where you can go on there, and it talks a little bit more about a reactive brain versus a thinking brain. But basically for now, when your reactive dog is performing his behaviour, it is because he is just been triggered by adrenaline, whereas if it's a responsive behaviour, it has come after analysis and he is responding to something that is happening around him. So in terms of training, if your dog is responsive, we now know that their brain is switched on and they are processing information. So this means then that they will be listening to you and they are very present in their environment. So that means that they can be distracted. So you might ask them to do something they know really well. You might ask them to sit or recall to you, or you might ask them to follow you, or as you try to walk away with them on their lead, they'll just come with you. You might be able to use a treat to try and encourage them to do something, or use their toy. So all of those kinds of techniques will work really well when you're working with a dog that is showing you responsive behaviour. Of course, with reactive behaviour, that's different because they're not using their thinking brain at all. So when they're using their reactive brain, they are in emergency mode. They are full of adrenaline. Adrenaline has taken over and is controlling the way that they react in these situations. So their reactions will be based purely on survival. So they will be in fight or flight mode. Talk about that quite a lot. So their instincts are telling them either to run away or to fight. And in nearly all the situations when a dog encounters their trigger, when they're a reactive dog, they will be on their lead, which means that over time they have learnt that flight doesn't work for them because they are trapped on their lead. So this is why they immediately go into this fight reaction. So for this dog, there is not going to be any distraction. We're not going to be able to use treats. We're not going to be able to ask them to do something they know well, because that is not the mode that they're in at that time. They're in survival mode. So what we need to do with that dog is take them away from that situation to start with, so that that survival mode can switch itself off. It also encourages the flight instinct, which hasn't been encouraged in the past. But also then your plan needs to be working around that at a later date. So you've removed them from the situation to make that moment better, but actually all the work you're going to do with your reactive dog is going to come next time you see one. So you're going to be managing that space. You're going to be working really hard to desensitize them for those situations, to stop the brain from triggering that fight mode that they go into, to stop that adrenaline from triggering. So avoidance is absolutely a good solution here, but avoidance with style. So, you know, you're going to be keeping your distance. You're not going to be trying to approach the dog because you just know that once that adrenaline's been triggered, there's no coming back from that. You're not going to be able to distract them. You're not going to be able to use your treats or anything like that. So you want to keep your distance as far as you can. Encourage some really good responses while that brain is still switched on. And you might find that you're really, really far away from the thing that has triggered them, or maybe it's a noise, so you've found a way to make that noise really dull so they can't really hear it very well. But whatever it is you're doing, you have diluted that situation enough that they have managed to keep their brain switched on, and you can work with them and give them loads of really rewarding experiences. And then once that's started, you can then start to reduce the distance later. In summary, I guess, reactive behaviour happens without thought. Responsive behaviour, there is some analysis and there is some thought. With responsive behaviour, you can actually affect the situation at that time. You can use different distraction techniques to change the response that your dog has given you. With reactive behaviour, you can't. So with reactive behaviour, all your work is going to come next time when you're going to be much more in control of the situation. But in the meantime, it's just damage control. So hopefully that's helped you understand the difference between reactive and responsive behaviour, and also how do you work with a dog that's in one or the other. If you've got any questions, shove them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care for now. Bye-bye.